All right, and welcome back to round three of the Cardboard Cellar Tournament Series. This is the Winter Modern Series, and we're in round three with the Brothers War between Austin and Dallas Mclean. Austin on your left on Domain Zoo. Obviously, Austin's joining us in commentary, so we'll be able to get some great insights from him into his thoughts and plays. And Dallas, his brother, is on Blue Black Mill Control, a brew of his that he's just thrown together in this last week. And Austin's off to a great start with a couple of ley lines and a windswept heath.
Yeah, I figured with having the two ley lines to start off, kind of play it out here. I am, I know what he's on. I've seen his deck list throughout the week, just kind of playing around and working with him. So I do know that I am in trouble for an archive trap, which he will unfortunately hit me with right here.
Yep. Archive Trap, one of those cards. It's a fun little sub game to try to get your fetches out of the way early enough that they don't, that hopefully they won't have drawn into them yet. Unfortunately, like you said, he's got it ready to go in this instance. But yeah, you definitely want to get those fetches out of the way before they get a second one in their hand because they'll decimate your deck quite early on in that instance. So there goes 13 cards to the bin, but at least you're able to get what I assume is a one of Abzan, I believe, in Dotha Triome, if I'm not mistaken, out of your deck before that. Because if he milled that one over, it would really take some of the wind out of your sails.
Yep, and I already know what he's coming with next. So he looking through the graveyard, and then he finally decides that he wants to hit me with the surgical extraction from what he saw. So he has no real good way of dealing with the Scion of Draco when it comes down. So his goal is to do that. Obviously, we played a little quick on that aspect, but so going back, he's gonna dig that out. He doesn't like to dig it out. He's gonna let me dig it out.
Yeah, firing that off prior to your draw step in your what phase of the game are we at? You've already played your land, but you hadn't taken your draw step. So I think we that mountain might need to be back in hand. But interestingly, putting that card back on top means that if that was a scion, you actually are gaining a draw step on this sequencing. Although it's a little bit all over the place. I think Dallas wanted to back you up to your to during your draw step, and he probably just miscommunicated that to be right before your draw step.
Yeah, so kind of just lagged there, unfortunately, a little bit. So it took us back. I'm gonna try to get down to Psychic Frog. Little variability in the most modern zoo lists, but I just love the card. I
Yeah,
just wanted to play it.
for sure. And if this sticks against the blue black control deck, a source of card advantage like that's going to be massive. Luckily, your Domain Zoo deck has a good bit of resilience here, even in the face of this unconditional black removal. With Flage as a early game threat, lightning helix to the face or to a creature, early crab or creature from the other side, and then the resilience of being able to play it later in the game gives the deck a whole different angle of attack for the opponents to prepare for.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to just get out and get as much damage in as possible real quick. He's gonna try to Visions Beyond, only getting one here.
Visions of Beyond, always another interesting card to play with. Mill looks like a lot of fun, I've got to say. A lot of interesting interactions, a lot of very technical play to maximize on the effectiveness of each of the mill cards with their drawbacks and advantages there. So I assume firing off that Visions in that instance probably means that Dallas is digging for his third land. I didn't get a great look at his hand to see if he had one there or not, but that's the only reason I could think of to fire off a Visions with no other threats on the board, is that you're just trying to hit your land drops and move closer to your end game.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get to what he needs. He's gonna hit me with a Mind Funeral. Fortunately for me, one, two, three off the top, three lands. So he's only gonna get, I think, 6 cards total. Luckily,
Yeah,
but
that is the tamest mind funeral I've ever seen. Playing against Dallas a little bit earlier in the week, I saw I think about 20 cards come off the top of my deck for one. So
yeah, and that's the normal for me. So I'm just lucky, and I'm glad that he wasn't able to hit anything. I'm gonna try to hit him with just another 5 here. With
just the casual 5 for 2
yeah,
mana
I hit him
that
with the
tribal
sorcery there.
flames.
I'm gonna
Yep.
try to hold up the stubborn denial I have in hand to see if I can hit him with with anything counter wise. End of the turn after he plays the Ruin Crab, I'm just trying to sift through my deck to see if I can get anything gas wise here. I just didn't want to draw any more lands.
Yeah,
So
continuing to fuel for multiple phages if you need them here in the future as well. I think you've got plenty of cards at this stage, but with Dallas having some of the graveyard interaction that he does, you definitely want to keep that graveyard fueled up. Um, so untapping here with 4 mana, I think we all know what might be about to happen. And
yeah,
that's another casual 5 for Tribal Flow.
I'm gonna yeah, in this instance I'm like, let me just hold up my stubborn denial if he wants to try something next. I know he plays some Planeswalker, some Tameo, Jace, things of that manner. So I was like, let me hold up. I'm gonna just hit him with the Tribal Flames. He can't fetch anymore. Try to put him into that standpoint. He passes right back, so I have to know he's probably got a counter spell in hand as well. So trying to play around that piece. But I draw Kavu off the top. I'm gonna play Kavu and then kind of let him go.
Yeah, the inclusion of Stubborn Denial in the deck is amazing when every single one of your creatures, with the exception of that Ragavan, have the ability to trigger Ferocious. Even if you find yourself in a bad instance where you need to trigger it with a frog, you can discard 3 cards or so and get it online that way. So, a couple of ways that you can play around it.
Yep, unfortunately, fortunately, he's gonna try to go for throat, and I have the Stubborn Dial ready.
And that Kavu isn't just a 5/5 with 2 abilities. It actually has 2 additional abilities thanks to that ley line. Uh,
Not yet, not without Scion.
not without the sign.
So
Good.
it's gotta have Scion, yeah. So I'm just gonna try to get in. I want to keep whatever's in my hand, so I'm gonna sift through his graveyard, try to get out a go for throw just in case he's going to do a Snapcaster push. So I'm looking for the push.
That is a nice foil push too. I didn't realize that when it
Yeah,
first
yeah.
came out, but
He's borrowed a few cards from me, so um, I'm just trying to get in damage, see what he does here, see what he's going to make his mind up to be.
yeah, but sitting at 22 to 1, you've probably got him under the abyss, jumping with any of these crabs or any snapcasters that come your way. He's basically got to draw an answer to this and the Flage in the same turn, and that was too much. And you even had the ley line backup. I see you there.
Yeah, I drew the ley line off the top, so obviously he had the Jason hand, so not a bad assumption to think that he had one of those planeswalkers ready for me. Unfortunately, when one of my creatures lands and he can't actually get rid of it, he's kind of in trouble.
Right.
So
Yeah, so let's take a look at the sideboards here. Unfortunately, with Dallas's deck being so new, he didn't actually participate and submit his sideboard in his deck list. Yeah, shame on you, Dallas.
yeah, we'll remember that for next tournament. So
Yep, disqualified. But Austin here, you've got a decent array there, although it doesn't look like there's too much to come in a matchup like this. Between his only creatures being the crabs and snapcaster mages, there's not much creature hate to bring in. Any consideration for the doorkeeper thrall to fight over snapcasters?
So I thought about it, and then once I ultimately decided, I thought, I don't need anything through here, to be honest. It's not going to realistically help me. I think the one thing that I did think about was that Dismember, and I might have actually brought that in, but that would have been maybe it, which even for that, I'm just going against crabs and things of that manner, so I'm not super concerned.
Yeah. Overall, with the stubborn denials, you're about as good as you can be in your main 60. There's a couple of niche scenarios that you might be bringing something in, but I could see you just submitting the same 60. On Dallas's side, he does have a sideboard. I think one of the main cards that we talked about with him before was the black 3 mana sweeper that I've forgotten the
Toxic
name of.
Deluge,
Toxic Deluge.
yeah.
That's it.
So we talked about Toxic Deluge. He did after the match tell me he brought one in here, and then Harbinger of the Seas, which has lined up really well against me, unfortunately, online in some of these tournaments that I've been trying to get into. So just praying that he didn't get one of those on me. I think I thought about actually that might have been what it was. I think I thought about bringing in the dismember for that specifically, just in case I got hit with one of those, and kind of put me in a bad spot so I could still get it off and get rid of that harbinger.
Fair, yeah. The ability to cast Dismember on colorless mana by paying 4 life there would be huge in the instance where you're faced up against that Harbinger.
And I knew a few of these decks in the tournament actually were running Harbinger sideboard, so that's why I kind of last minute threw a Dismember in to try to go against that and combat that.
Yeah. As a former Blood Moon aficionado, I don't know that I love what Harbinger is doing to the format at the moment, but it is good to see some people have to have some honesty in their mana bases regardless.
Yeah, a little Flood Moon action. I honestly wish it was Blood Moon, better for me. But I'm going to start this game two, luckily with another ley line down. He's going to start off with a Ruin Crab here. So we're going to be off to the races, see who's gonna mill me out, or am I going to get him? So I do have Ragavan in hand. Going to drop that Steam Vents, straight go for it.
Nice to get a threat like that out on turn one, get some tempo against your opponent who's more thinking probably towards the late game a little bit with the massive scions and the kavus that you can have to plan around having some big answers in the late game for those type of things.
Yep, unfortunately going to eat the early push, so I had to assume he was going to have that.
And
But
notably on the start of this game, I think I see not a polluted delta, a flooded strand in your hand there as well, and yet choosing not to play around the search effect, the missed archive trap.
trap, yeah.
Uh,
So right there, trying to just go for that, and then save for a minute, whether that's the right full move or not. I mean, I could just play it and use it through ley line like I am currently, but figured I'd save that. Try to drop this, and then worst case is fetch if I don't have to use my stubborn denial, which I saved that exactly for that reason, trying to play him out into that.
yeah, fair enough.
Luckily caught him in it.
Fair enough. The ley line just continues to give and give with the correcting your mana. It's hard for the commentator, myself, or the opponents to keep track of what you can cast at any given time. And also with that comboing with that Scion's got 20 abilities now. It's got Dredge and Lifelink and Flying and Hexproof and Devoid and Trample, and I think it actually has at least 4 of those. But
Yeah, so it's got a lot, and then so I did catch him off guard. He questioned my ability to play the stubborn denial through a wooded foothills, but or a windswept heath, but I got it off, and he understood after that.
Yeah. So it looks like you are sitting pretty here as Dallas has missed a couple of land drops in a row, and you're beating down with 9 points of lifelinking power. Uh, and it's going to be quite difficult. I think that Toxic Deluge would be his only way back in. And in order to kill that Kavu, he would have had to have paid 5 life as it was. So that's going to be a quick end to round three, with Austin moving to 2-1 going into round four.